computer. Okay, I'll start recording now. That was my bad. Thank you for reminding me. But yeah, this is how you can do comments in Python. The hashtag is also used to put instructions. Yeah, if you say hashtag print something, then it won't print anything. The hashtag can be used to put instructions. Yeah, basically. Yeah, in Java it's 2 slashes. Very nice. Okay, let's move on. And then today we're just going to be talking about 3 basic data types, and they're going to be integer, float, and string. So integers, like you learned in math, are just like counting numbers, basically, except they can also be negative. And then one thing is that for data types, these are like a type of value, and they can only be confined to this type. So one thing about integers is that you can't store a decimal value into an integer variable. For example, for int1, that's like a variable, you can make it equal to 3, and then you can have int2 equal to 4. So one thing you can't do is like int1 equals 3.0. Like that would not be an integer, that would instead be a float. So the biggest difference between an integer and a float is that integer is just like a number without decimal, and float is one with decimal. And then what you can see here is that you can like do operations with integers. You can like create the variables, you can print them out, just like how we printed out like the message before. And then we can also add them as well. How come you need extra parentheses? Okay, well, you don't necessarily have to have the extra parentheses. I just do them just for like clarity purposes, but you don't need them. Yeah. The reason why you sometimes might need the parentheses is when you're printing out different data types, and we're going to be explaining that later on. But yeah, these are integers. All you have to know is that they're of integer type. And then the second type, the second data type we're going to be talking about is just floats. And these are just decimal numbers. And they can be like operated the exact same way as integers. You can have float 1 equals 10.3, float 2 equals 3.45. And then you can have another variable that stores the quotient of float 1 and float 2. And then you can print out whatever 10.3 divided by 3.45 is, like this. You tried to add 1 and 2, but when it... Yeah, that's probably why you have to put parentheses, because... Wait, did you put quotation marks on the ends of it? Because let's see. Let's do add numbers as a comment to explain what we're doing. Int 1 equals 1, int 2 equals 2. And when you print out int 1 plus int 2. Let's see what happens. For me, it prints out just this. It just prints out 3. Maybe you stored it as a string. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, we'll be explaining like strings later on as well. We're gonna like clarify this. So just to be clear, integers and floats, they're stored by just putting a number as the value. And then here's just some operations you can do with integers and floats, which is what we described before with arithmetic operations. But here's another thing. This is like the most, arguably, strings are the most important data types because they can represent basically anything. They can represent words, characters, or sentences. And they are defined using either double or single quotes. So like what we had before, Chipotle is the best. That like chunk right there, that sentence is a string because it's defined by quotation marks and it has a bunch of characters in it. So you can print like a string like hello world, or you can, yeah, you can print out a string hello world, or like whatever you want, like donuts are like tasty or something like that. And then you can also store a string in a variable. Like here we can name a variable called var equals hi there. And you can print out var later on. And we encourage you to like try executing this piece of code, and then try changing up the variable var.
What's the difference between the double quotation and single quotation?
There actually is no difference actually. In Python, both of them are just fine.
What's the benefit of putting it into a putting the string in a var?
Well, for you can like, so for example, let's say you have like a piece of code that like it's like it organizes orders basically. Like person one might want a pizza, for example. And then they might want to change the order later on. So you can change their order to like, they change the order to something like burger. So you can change the order of person one to burger from pizza. And then there's like a lot of other people that you need to like take into account in this like ordering scheme. So okay, that might sound a little bit confusing, but basically variables are useful for like organizing values. Um, we'll be explaining the real purpose of variables later on, but just know that right now, the reason you might want to store data in a variable is because you can change it later on.
Understood. Thank you.
And you have like a very reliable place to store it. Yeah, but later on into the class, you'll get a much better understanding of why we want to use variables rather than just like straight up printing them out. Yeah, instead of saying my variable, can we replace it with var? Yeah, you can replace the variable name with anything you want. Yes, you can have a variable that stores an integer and then it can store a float later on. The difference between a float and an integer is that an integer does not have any decimals. Yeah, as Torrin explained. And then floats are more precise. They do have decimals. Are there any more questions? We've covered a lot of stuff pretty quickly, so feel free to ask. Okay, I just want to ask you guys, how many of you guys are like have tried executing the code on REPL.it? And then click yes if you have, and click no if you have not. Okay. For those who the code isn't printing though, well, have you tried using the print function and making sure the variable or whatever you're printing out is inside of the parentheses? Like one way to just print something by itself is just doing print parentheses and then put whatever you want to print inside the parentheses, like hello world. And then it prints out hello world. And we can also just comment out the rest of this so that the program doesn't run it, which is also something pretty convenient for with commenting, because you can like organize your code this way. And then now it'll only run hello world. Can you try that? You can use any word as a variable. You can use like pony or something like that if you really wanted to. But usually when you name your variables, you want to be like very precise with them and have them represent what they mean. For example, if you want to name the variable value of like, let's say you have a string that's called like burgers. You want to name it like food or entree or something like that. Like usually you want your variable names to have meaning, like something like this. Or if you want to store like a price of a car, you would do like car price equals like $5 million or something. Are there any questions about variables, data types, or like adding or subtracting values? Okay, cool, nice, it works. Yeah, for those who might be a little bit like confused about what's going on, you can ask for more questions. You can ask more questions and clarification stuff inside of the breakout rooms where you'll be able to be paired up with one of our instructors, and then you can like ask questions like directly, not just through the chat, but just like speaking up. Okay, so we just talked about the three like most common, I guess, basic variable data types: integers, floats, and strings. Integers are just integer numbers with no decimals. Floats are numbers with decimals. And strings are just any collection of characters or words. And then so there's a lot of, so numbers like integers and floats, you can just add, subtract, multiply, divide them. With strings, you can do a lot more with them. And then I will demonstrate here. So, oh, that's a bit difficult to see. Okay, so let's say I have a string. Let's call it my string. It can be called anything you want, honestly, str if you really want. But I'm going to be calling my string just my string. And let's call it apples. And then I'm going to call another string and oranges. And then so one thing you can do with a string is you can see how long it is by doing len parentheses my string. Or okay, let's do it in a variable so it's easier to see. Length equals len and then my string. So what this does is that its length here represents the length of your string, like how many characters it has inside of it. So what this should print out is 6 because apples is like 6 letters long. And then if we try running it, we see that it prints out the number 6. Because apples has 6 letters in it. Okay. Now, another thing we can do with strings is we can add them together. So,
I have a question. Does the space count?
does the space like this one right here?
It count for the length?
Yes, spaces do count for the length. So if I add like a bunch of spaces at the end here and we calculate the length, it's 13. So spaces do count in the length.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. And then so back to what I was saying, you can add strings together. So if you do big string equals my string plus another string, you can add them together. And if you try printing out, you'll see that it straight up adds the two strings together to get apples and oranges. Because the first string, my string, is apples, and then another string represents a space, then followed by and oranges. So that's one way you can just straight up add strings. It's kind of similar to numbers. Yeah, and you can add and subtract floats and integers as well. Okay. And then one very interesting thing about string is that you can pinpoint to a certain character inside of the string. And one way you can do that is through indexing. So let's go back to the presentation here. Let's say we have this string called probe, P-R-O-B-E, and we wanted to refer to the first character. And the way we would do that is by using the indexes representing each character in the string. So in the word probe, or in the string probe, each letter corresponds to one index. And the index starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Indices are basically a way to count the characters. Like when you're counting up the characters in the string probe, you would go, okay, P is the first letter, R is the second letter, O is the third letter, B is the fourth letter, and E is the fifth letter. And then the way indices work is just the counting number minus 1. And then you may ask, why is this important? So one way it can be important is when you want to refer to, let's say, the first letter of a string. So let's say first letter equals my string, then bracket 0. So what this piece of code here does is that it goes to my string here, and it looks into it. It looks into the value of the string. And then it goes to the character in the string or the letter that corresponds with the index of 0. And the index of 0 corresponds with the first letter. And then the index of 1 would correspond with the second letter. And the index of 2 would correspond with the third letter, and so on and so on. So what happens when you print out the first letter? You would obviously get the first letter of apples, which would be A, which you can see here. Are there any questions about this? This is a more complex topic. And then if you wanted to print out the third letter in the string, you would go to 0, 1, 2, the second index or the third letter, and then it would print out P. Why does it begin with 0? That's a good question. I think it's because when developers of the language of like Python, no, actually just of any coding language, they wanted an efficient way to count from a number to like n. For example, if there are like, let's say you wanted to count 5 numbers. How coders back then wanted to do it is so that you can go from 0 to 4. Actually, that's not a very good way of explaining it. I think for now you can just think of it as just like what do you call it? It's just like something that it's just like by definition, I suppose. Just by definition, it was zero indexed, like how Taran explained. But the zero indices is very useful for like later operations that we'll learn. Yeah, but most things in computer science are zero indexed. But I don't think I can give a very good reason for why they did it like that, but it definitely helps that they did do it like that. And you'll be able to see that in future applications in Python and in other languages as well. Are there any questions? Any more questions about how indices work, or if you guys want more examples of it?
I saw that you have this negative indices. Are you going to talk about that later?
Yes. Well, with negative indices, you don't really have to know them, but they are good to know. Negative indices are just counting indices from the back of the string. So normal indices, it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But negative, it goes from -5, -4, -3, -2, -1. Usually you don't really think of using negative indices. But for negative indices, they're just like normal index, except they start from -1 and they go back. So if you wanted to get the last character in the string, you could do, so if you wanted to get the last letter, you could do my string -1, and then that would get you the last letter in the string.
So the negative index is actually more convenient if you're starting from the end.
Yes, they are quite convenient when you're starting from the end. Yeah, but it takes some time to like memorize that, because the way normal indices and negative indices work is like a bit different, and it's a bit harder to remember because normal indices, it starts from 0, but negative indices, it starts from -1. So it's a bit difficult to remember, but if you get it down, they're very, very useful. Yes, you could also write for it to run the letter E. When you type something, it gives a recommendation of what it thinks you're typing. Oh, I'm not exactly sure how to turn it on for REPL. It was just on automatically for me. Maybe one of the instructors can help you out. I'm not exactly sure how that would work. Okay, but moving on. So we just talked about the 3 basic data types, int, float, and string. So sometimes you might want to convert from certain data types to another data type. The most obvious reason you might want to do this is when you're printing out a string. For example, if you have an integer you have my integer, let's just call it that. I don't know, I can't really think of any better variable name. We can call my integer 5, and then we can have a string representing food, and then we can call it like bananas. And let's say you wanted to create a string that represents how many bananas you bought. And you happen to have the values of 5 and bananas stored in variables. So one way you can think of like trying to trying to like add up these variables together is just doing, let's see, let's just call it order. You might think of just doing this. My integer, then plus food. But what you'll see, what happens here is that there is an error here, and it says unsupported operand types for plus, int and string. So that's one goofy thing about Python, is that it can't operate two different data types with one another. It's like different from Java, which like automatically does it for you, but it can't do it in Python. So one thing you need to do is you need to convert both data types to the same data type. And one way you could do that is by converting the integer, my integer, into a string. And you do it by doing str and parentheses and whatever value you want to convert into a string. So how you would do it here is you do str parentheses and then my integer. And then now both this value here and this value here are both strings. And now you can indeed add them together. So we just described like how to convert data types and then like why you might want to convert them. Because Python only allows you to operate between two of the same data types. Like you can't operate between a float and an integer. Are there any questions about this?
I have a question. I'm trying to do the first letter thing in the tuple, but it's not like nothing's happening to me because there's like an error or something. And I put first letter equals variable and then in the parentheses 0, and then I put print letter and it says there's an error.
Oh, that's because when you're trying to get like the letter based on the indices, you have to put brackets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like this is a parenthesis and this is a bracket. You have to use brackets for indices. This is for like functions and organization. But yeah, you have to use brackets for indices.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, all the slides will be shared, so you guys can go back and review. Okay, and then the final things we're going to be talking about today is print, the two functions print and input. So as you guys have already seen, we can use the print function to just print whatever value we want to print out. We can print out any variable or any data type like integers, floats, or strings. So here it says outputs a text or number to the console. So that's exactly what it does. And then another very, very useful function that you can use is the input function, which takes in the user input. And then this is like super useful for like if you want to create your own little calculator or something like that. So for example, if you wanted to take in the user's input, you would do like you can store it into a variable like user input equals input and then parentheses, just like this. And then let's say you wanted to print out whatever the user inputted. So how we enter the text as a user input is you type something and then you have to press enter. and then the Python will be able to take in the user input and give it to you, and you can store it in whatever you want. You can even just put like value here or whatever variable name you want to put in there. We want to emphasize that you don't have to use like user input or whatever variable names we're using. You can create whatever you want. Like you can even call it like just name or word or whatever you want.
So the input here, is it of the data type string or integer or?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. All inputs are of string data type. So let's say you wanted to give the computer like a number if you want, and you wanted to process like a number. For example, if you wanted to add like you wanted your program to automatically add 5 to whatever number your user inputted. So let's say you put in like 17 in here. There's gonna be an error because they see number as a string. So you can only concatenate string to string. So they see number as a string. So what you can do to automatically convert the input into a number is by doing integer and then input. Or you can do float input if you would like. And then this way, it'll work, 22. And then one more final thing about inputs is that something really nifty you can do is that inside of the parentheses following the input, you can put like a preliminary statement before the user input. So, okay, that sounds kind of weird, but I'll give an example. Let's say enter your number. We can put this in as a string before the input. And then what would happen here is that it tells your computer to automatically print out something. And then the line, the cursor for your input is right afterwards. So it looks like much more seamless. Are there any questions about how this works or how you would do it or why you would do it?
That's good, thank you.
Okay, cool. All right. Then. And then, so that's all of the content we have covered. And now it is a time for a Kahoot to test your knowledge. Okay. Okay, so everyone either on your that's very loud. Okay. Okay, so yeah, type in kahoot.it onto your browser like this. Just type in kahoot.it into your browser and it should bring you up somewhere, and then type in the game theme. And that should bring you to whatever, that should bring you to the game basically. So if you've never heard of Kahoot, it's like a really cool way, or I guess fun way of like testing knowledge, because it's like competitive and it's kind of like a game. Kahoots are like what I look forward to most in my classes. So I hope this will be a bit more engaging.
Yeah, it's very fun. Did you make this yourself, this game?
Oh, for this game, we didn't create it ourselves, but for the future Kahoots, we have created our own Kahoots.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. How many questions? There are 20 questions. Although they should go by pretty quickly. Wrong answers. Very nice.
You can use some game that other people created on Kahoot right here.
Yeah, you can. That's what we did for this very first one because it's very basic. For the other ones, we kind of wanted to be like more personalized and stuff like that. So we created our own for the future 7 classes. So yeah. All right, we got almost everyone here, I think.
Microphone isn't working.
Let's see. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay, basically everyone's here. All right, I'm gonna start now. All right, let's go. By the way, do you guys want sound or do you guys not want sound? Say yes or no in the participants indicator. This will be based off of a majority vote.
I think people still have yes from the other questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I think everyone answered. Okay, yeah. The data type of the variable pet name is string because there's quotation marks surrounding it.
I accidentally pressed a random answer.
It's okay. It's okay. It's 20 questions, so if you be consistent overall, you'll be fine. We put a lot of time for these questions. I'll skip at 30. Ooh, okay. Okay, I can see why you guys would put something like string, but if you look at the question correctly, it says value. What is the value of the variable name? And the value of it is ponyo, or the string ponyo. Ooh, loads is up top. Oliver's close behind. Make sure to read the question. What is the data type? All right, I'm sorry, but time's up. Okay, basically everyone got it. Yes. The data type is string because there's 2 quotations around it. Wait, I just realized, I think we changed the music.
Is it like October spooky music?
Yeah, oh, that's true, it's seasonal. Yes, there is a Discord for this class, but I'm not exactly sure if we're allowed to use it. Nice. Okay, basically everyone got it right. I don't think there's a need to explain. It's like a number without decimal. Ooh, loads is still on top. Good stuff. Nice.
Oh, I just chose a random one because I didn't know what it was.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because
We
the
don't
other
blame
ones
you
didn't
guys.
make
This is something we guys forgot to we guys didn't teach you. Boolean is like a data type where you can only store true and false. But that's our bad. We won't consider this in the grading. Although good job to those who could get it. That was our bad. Skipping at 30. Ooh, nice. Okay, basically everyone got it. Good stuff. Wow. Oh, wait, Oliver's kind of close. Only 20 off. Hmm. Ooh, okay, yeah, this is a float because there's a decimal place here. And integer doesn't have any decimal places. Okay, no change, no change. Oh, okay. Be very careful about this one. Oh, okay, so this one you guys should have gotten
Yes,
without knowing
close.
what the Boolean is, because look at what's on the look at what's on the left and right. There's quotation marks, which means it's a string. Are there any questions about this? Yeah, it is a little bit of a trick question. That's why knowing the basics is very important, because there can be a lot of bugs in your code later on if you don't get down these concepts. Okay, nice. Okay, basically everyone got it. Yeah, it's a string because it's quotation. Basically, if you see quotation marks, it's gonna be a string. Wow. Wow, Oliver just overtook by one. Dang, very close, very close.
Wait, so if it has quotation marks, it has to be a string?
Yeah, generally if it has quotation marks, it's like almost always a string. Hmm. Oh, yeah, yeah. But this one right here is a very interesting one. This one's also tricky. Very tricky. Yeah, so in Python, it automatically converts when you divide an integer by another integer. If it ends up in a decimal, it automatically converts it to a float. That is something that you should know.
So if it was like a fraction that simplifies into a regular number, it would be an integer.
Yeah, if it were like 20 divided by 5, it would just be a 4, not like
Yeah.
4.0. Yeah. But since it's 5 divided by 20, it would end up as 0.25. So yeah. Ooh, a thief is on top now. Hmm. This one is tricky. Here's a hint. Okay, it might be too late for a hint, but in Python, it always like goes up in complexity. Oh, nice. A lot of you got it. Yeah. If you add a float and an integer, it always goes like up in complexity. Like it adds a decimal to it.
Wait,
So-
but there's no decimal, but I guess there is.
Well, if you have like an integer and it has a decimal in it, like 45.0, it automatically converts it to a float. Like a float plus an integer is always a float.
Oh, I thought it would simplify the 45.0 to just a integer.
No, it doesn't work like that in Python. In Python, all of the data types, it becomes more advanced when you're like combining them for integers and floats at least. Integers and float, it converts everything to a float. So that's something very, very important to remember. Yeah, Python does not want to lose the precision, I guess, just as Taran said. What is the value of the variable? Okay, what is the value? You want to use the previous question for this answer as well. It's like a bit tricky. Nice. Basically everyone got it. The reason there's a decimal is because, as we said before, float plus another integer equals a float. So there would be a 0.0 at the very end. One way you can convert it to 95 is to put int, then parentheses around all of this, and then you can convert it to 95. Ooh, Thief is still on top. Lisa's close behind though. What's the, oh, okay. Okay. So I can see some of you guys thought it was 5/20. I don't think there's any value in Python that's defined as 5/20. There's no fraction values in Python. There's only decimals or floats and integers. And in this case, it would just be 0.25. Because any time where an integer divided by another integer and it results in like a decimal, it converts straight up to a float, which is why it's 0.25. Ooh. Renee has dethroned a thief. What is the value of the variable? Oh. Nice. Okay, so again, the value is a string because there's quotation marks around it. No, wait, the value is a 5/20/82, my bad. Because this quotation, because that is the value that the string contains. Like the data type is a string, but the value itself is whatever's inside of the string, whatever's inside the quotation marks. Does that make sense? Yeah, my bad. I was a bit confused in it. It's definitely 5/20/82. Yeah. All right, Renee's still on top. All right, final countdown is 5 questions. What is the name? Okay, okay. Hmm. 5 seconds left. Let's see if you guys can get it. Okay. So remember the name of the variable is like the stuff in front of the equal sign. So it'd be favorite word. Ooh, Afif is back on top. Yeah, remember the name, the variable name is on the left side of the equals, and the variable value is on the right side. That's how I like to remember it. All right. Okay, nice. Basically everyone got it. Yeah. Ooh, wait, Afif just got outtaken. It's okay, Sebastian. There will be another time for you to shine. All right, you guys should be getting this instantly, because we've had 2 of the similar questions before. Okay, I'll skip it at 35. Nice. Okay. Score, it's the name of the variable. We're good. Okay, Angelina is still on top. 3 more questions. What is the value? Okay.
Oh no.
We don't. Okay, some of these questions are troll because we haven't touched them yet, but
I chose the lowercase one.
oh. Well, I mean, the answer's on the, yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it is the yellow one. Very good job, guys. Well, it's just true here, so that would be the value of the variable. But one thing about Booleans, like either true or false variables, or true or false data type, they're all capitalized. The true and false are capitalized. So that's one nifty thing to know. Okay, Angeline's still on top. I feel like she might win this unless someone makes a massive comeback. Yeah, in Lua you can't. Also in Java you can't. But on Python, the Booleans are uppercase. Okay, I'm gonna skip. Okay, nice. Basically everyone got it. The value is 2 and it's an integer. Okay, it's the final one. Let's see what happens. What is the value of the variable? What is the value? Yep, it's pizza. Well, you know the data type of the variable is a string, but the value of the variable itself is pizza. So that's right. All right, the final podium. We got Arnold at third with the bronze. Afif at second with the silver. And Angeline with the first place. Congratulations. All right. Well, that concludes our game of Kahoot. We hope you have enjoyed. I've realized that oops. Okay. Wait, I'm gonna share my screen back again. Class is not over, by the way. But it's gonna be over soon, don't worry. Since we kind of ran a bit late today, we're not gonna be doing like breakout rooms. We're just gonna be answering like questions and stuff like that. So normally we would have like a project time for like about half an hour, but we wanted to spend more time on like introductions and making sure you guys understood like the very basic concepts. But we have like a bunch of projects that you guys are supposed to do. But you guys can do them for homework instead for practice, and we'll just hold an extra long Q&A session for today. And then can one of the other instructors post the presentation slides onto Ed?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Alex.
Wait, I'll post it with the recording, I think.
Okay, yeah, we can do it after class then. You guys can look on Ed for the homework and the project questions. There's gonna be 3 of them, and we know you guys are like probably super busy with school right now, so we encourage you guys to not spend more than an hour on these unless you like really enjoy doing them. Yeah. So here's just a quick recap of what we learned today. We learned about 3 different data types, most basic ones: strings, integers, and floats. And then I guess booleans through the Kahoot is like an extra surprise, I suppose. And then we talked about how to convert between data types, just doing int parentheses, and then whatever you want to convert, string parentheses, whatever you want to convert, and then float, then parentheses, and then whatever you want to convert. Next class, are we going to show what we did for homework? We're gonna have like a submission Google form where you guys are gonna like post like files or links to your homework, and then we'll just look over them and give you any comments. We'll like send you some comments. Yeah. The point of this class is like give you like feedback and stuff like that. Yeah. Print user input. That I know that would work, the squares. But yeah. So you don't none of the homework is like required, but if you really want to become good at like Python, we highly recommend you do the homework. And then other stuff we learned is string concatenations and just like normal number operations, just like adding numbers, subtracting numbers, adding strings, and like indexing strings, which can be very useful later on. We talked about user input, and then we're going to be talking about random next time. But yeah, that's basically everything we learned. If you don't have any more questions, you are all free to go. And thank you so much for attending our first Intro to Python class, and hope to see you all next week.
We have one question about input, or did you already answer that? I'm sorry.
Input is for integers and input. Okay.
So
yeah, Arnav, you can explain.
So the function input, when you use it, the thing inside the parentheses is what the function is going to print out when it asks the user for the input. And then the result, like when you store it inside a variable, that's always going to be a string. You can change it using the data type conversions that we learned earlier in the class. Like for example, you could have my int equals input, tell me a number. The code I just put in the chat where you have int parentheses, then the input, then close parentheses, that's going to change the input from a string into an integer. but unless you do that, it's going to automatically just stay as a string.
Oh. Hmm. Oh, old man fat cat 64 has a very good question. If you okay, let me read it again. If you want to like round something, 10.655 to 10.66. Oh, you're welcome, Siobhan. Thank you for coming. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so you want your price to be like 10.665, right? And you want to round it to 10.66. There's a very nifty function in Python where, okay, let's call it rounded price, where you can straight up round the price, and then you can do the number of decimal places, like 2. And then if we print out rounded price, you get 10.66. So what the round function does is it takes in the float that you want to round, and then you do comma, then whatever decimal place you want to round it to, and then it just works like that. Yeah, no problem, old man fat cat. We'll post the homework after this class onto EdSTEM, and then you'll be able to find it on there in the resources section. We're gonna make an announcement about it, so it'll be very, very clear.
But I have a question. The next digit is 5. Shouldn't that round up to 7, 6, 7?
Yes. In like normal math that works, but in Python, it like how it rounds is that if you just do round, it automatically rounds down.
So truncated.
Yeah, it's truncated. Oh wait.
Hey, this is like 6 up, 5 down.
Wait, I was lying. Yeah, I think in Python, I haven't really done too much stuff about rounding, but it seems in Python that it rounds everything 5 down instead of up. But I guess one thing you can do to make sure it rounds down or up is to do like floor. Does that work? Okay.
It's math.
Or is it? I think you have to
Get rid of the parameter or the 2.
Yeah, but I don't think.
Oh, is that not?
Wait, you can multiply by 100.
Yeah, 100.
Add like half, and then or
Yeah.
add like 5 or something, and then divide again, and then like then you cast it to an int or
Alex,
whatever,
you wanna
and then
show-
you can divide
Can you
again.
show on your screen?
Yeah, you can get around.
Wait, let me just try typing the code or something. I think this will work.
You can also do math.floor. Let's see if that works. Okay, yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah, but there's definitely ways to go around rounding a number. Yeah, but that's definitely a good question.
I'll type it.
Yeah. I also have a question. So early on, you talk about integer and then slash integer, it round down the number, right?
Mhm.
Then in the Kahoot quiz, it's a 5/20 if you point to 5. So I was thinking maybe round down is just get to 0. So which one?
In Python, actually, integer divided by integer always converts to a float.
Oh, convert to float. So
Yeah.
it's not round down. Okay.
Yeah, it's not round down. That was my bad. I misspoke. I was thinking of Java.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in Python, if you want integer division, you use 2 slashes.
Yeah, you use 2 slashes like this, and then it would round down to 1.
Oh, 2 slash. Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
But with 1 slash, it automatically converts it to a float. So it's 7 divided by 5 equals 1.4.
Got it.
Yeah. Thank you
Okay.
for asking so many questions.
Thank you. That was fun today. Okay.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you. I'll
Okay.
see you next week.
Yeah, glad to have you. See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right. Does anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, you guys are all free to go. It's 3:30. Okay. Nice. Yeah, glad to have you, Afif. Good job today. Yeah, you're very welcome, Renee. Thank you for coming. User input was input. Okay, cool. The instructors are gonna have like a meeting afterwards, so if you guys could head out, unless you have any more questions. Otherwise, you guys can just head out and enjoy the rest of your Sundays or Mondays if you like live in like England or something.
Is England? England is like 8 or 9 hours. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I think.
No,
Well,
I think it's 8. I think it's 8. So I think it's
Is it?
11:30 there.
okay, well, close
Yeah.
enough.
It's like
Technically
India or
not,
something.
yeah.
Okay, they're all